right, let's see. Welcome to the live, my friends. Let me just get a couple of things sorted out before we fully get started. I originally was going to have this be Psylocke, and then I was going to have this be something else, but I've decided that I'm going to have this be my D&D character. But also I have this fun hood, right, because it's like an assassin kind of situation. 1 second, let me put up, and I also need to get my whiteboard, so thank you guys for joining. Happy weekend, warriors. 1 sec. Whew. All right, I have everything. I also have my fan, right? And I have my like whiteboard eraser because it's technically the weekend, so it's superhero school, and I'm playing as my own custom character, Mayari Moonchild from D&D. Oh, thank you guys. I was gonna have some elf ears on, but I'll save that for a later date. So, welcome to the live. I'm gonna turn down the music just a little bit. I have some 80s dreamwave, synthwave to commemorate. 1 sec. Okay. That was like my little intro. Welcome to the live, my friends. This is my custom character, Mayari Moonchild, and so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about some mythology about the moon, some stories that I have, and also relating this to D&D and the different various, let's call them deities that exist cross-culturally and also cross-dimensionally, let's call it. I would call out the ... fire, but you have no name, which I feel like we can get into on a later show. Let's see. I'm just saying hello, Montecito. I feel like it's been a little... Montecito, I feel like it's been a little while, my friend. Hi, welcome to the weekend. I have some cosmic intel to give you guys today. I'll guess this is like kind of my Psylocke cosplay. I have a true Psylocke cosplay coming up very soon, but I'm going to use Psylocke as a character to bridge the gap in terms of what we're going to talk about today. I'll explain in just a second. Dad, thank you for following. I thought it was I am Psylocke. Let's talk about Psylocke, actually. I was looking at some old videos, actually. Money Boy Grayson. Let's see here. Let's talk about D&D Mises. Oh, I love D&D. Like Forgotten Realms. I read all the books. Like, the Silverhands, Silvara, like all like the silver-haired bards of that world. Oh, and Tim Greenwood, I just found out, actually was like born and raised in like the suburbs of Toronto. So weird connections and all of those things, right? And all of the universes that are so important to us. Let's see here. Oh, Wasket, 1 for 1. Hi, hello, welcome to the live. I'll explain. Actually, I could be Psylocke as well. Phoenix, Arizona. Hey, did I visit Phoenix? The Phoenix Suns used to have a player on the team, Steve Nash, right? Who was from Canada and originally from South Africa. So kind of fun, right? Little connection there. I used to love basketball a lot. I was on dance team / cheerleading on at the University of Manitoba, and so I cheered for a lot of like the basketball games on halftime, the halftime show. And when I first moved out to Toronto, I actually auditioned to be on the Raptors dance pack. I almost made it, but there was a few other girls who had my same look who were better dancers than I, so did not make the Raptors dance pack at that time. Oh, thank you, Pondecito. Thank you for that love. All right, you guys. So today's topic, Money Boy Grayson, shout out to Nightwing as well. Love you, Dick Grayson. But we're talking about Marvel. We're gonna keep it into the Marvel universe today. We're gonna talk about Psylocke a little bit because that's gonna go into the bigger conversation today. Because Mayari Moonchild is my D&D character. I play D&D on Thursday nights with a group. We had to restart from the beginning because of scheduling and stuff. Like, when you play D&D, or if you play any kind of video games, like I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3 right now, and like, holy crap, it's any game you get invested into, actually any movie or like story or anything like that, it is a lot of investment. A lot of time investments, like a love relationship in the beginning when you get obsessed, or like I was talking, so yesterday, crazy story, there was like a fire alarm that went off in our building, and you know, like you in Toronto, right, if you live in a condo down here, like it's not very, like it's kind of an, like people pull the fire alarms for whatever reason all the time, right? So we're like, whatever. And but it turned out to be an actual fire. So it was kind of crazy. The cosmos are kind of crazy right now. Tomorrow, just to get ahead of it before we talk about Psylocke and this character, well, I actually also have, check it out. I hope TikTok doesn't get mad for this kind of thing. This is a Kill Bill replica sword. It's heavier than a true katana because it's heavy, right? Because katanas are quite light. And I remember I did a photo shoot as the bride. You may have seen some of those photos. I've done not a great job of like my old modeling stuff. Hey Pokey, how's it going? Oh, welcome to the Weekend Warriors. So I'm Psylocke. I'm also Mayari, and I'll call it a fusion of those characters as well, right? So let's talk about the stars. Let's go into Psylocke, and then we're going to end it with stories about the moon and moon goddesses as they exist in many different stories, such as Sailor Moon, Moon Knight, as well as any of the goddesses that have to do with the moon, like Artemis, Luna, Diana as a name is very powerful, right? If we think of even Princess Diana, even in Dr. Phibes, that movie I watched, Diana is a reference to the moon goddess of the hunt. So let's get started. Let's see. She was evil in X-Men Apocalypse. Technically speaking, Psylocke's a bad, like not bad. No, like with all stories, who's bad and who's good and who's a villain and who's a hero is really oftentimes dependent on where you are standing. So first, let's talk about the cosmos. I have my whiteboard that I had, and I also, look, I have this fun little detail. So I have this plus the sword, right? So it's like martial arts, right? Arts are literally in the name, right? In Filipino culture, when the Spaniards came and conquered the island, the pagan Filipinos, they hid their martial arts within dance, right? So I would say like dance itself also has in it certain moves, also really well done choreography. I find in any type of movie is got this beautiful kind of dance quality to it, right? Martial arts, right? And each even in Japan or in different, even in dance itself, right? If you have like the tango, or you have certain types of like Latin dances, dependent on whether it's like South American version or European version, it's going to have a different flavor to it, right? Oh, thank you. So like Psylocke herself, let's talk about her. And then I'll get into Mayari and the moon, and that'll actually bring into the fact that we have an eclipse tomorrow, you guys. It's a lunar eclipse. It's actually also a blood moon. Oh, sounds intense, right? Oh, thank you. So, my friends, Psylocke. Apparently, she was in the Deadpool and Wolverine movie. There's some like scenes that were like on the cutting room floor that no one ever saw. But I'll let you into the comic book version of Psylocke, right? I love comic books because they have this beautiful ability to have different versions, different stories, and have them all be true at the same time, right? The truth does not negate the truth, right? It only brings more light, more illumination to what already is there. It just brings more complexity to it. Not complexity, I should put it more like Am I the, oh, that's very sweet, Poke. Are you a poet? Are you also a bard? Oh, I love bards. Okay, so I'm gonna bring this to D&D too, right? Because when I first was playing RPG games, so if you guys aren't familiar with like video games or anything, my background in it is super nerdy. My dad was a professor in computer science, and so and I still do adore my father. He was the best teacher ever. I relate to Barbara Gordon a lot with her relationship with her dad, in terms of like, my dad never treated me any differently just because I was a little girl as opposed to a little boy. And he always answered my questions in a way that I was like already like a grown-up human being, I guess, right? Didn't dumb things down for me. So my dad actually created computer games for me and my sister to teach us things like mathematics. And I learned things like C++ and JavaScript, Java, not JavaScript. JavaScript is specifically web, right? But I learned about the like language of technology in the 90s, when a lot of people didn't have the internet, didn't have any of that kind of stuff. I did, and I used a lot of that to search up things like Sailor Moon, as well as a lot of stuff having to do with comic book lore. Like, I don't know about you guys, but Pokey, you know this. Like, when I love a story, I'm like, oh, I want to know the backstory. I want to know, like, how did these religions even come about, right? I love the prequels, because when you go so far back into the past, it becomes the future kind of thing. It's the way kind of time working in such a way. You're an Aquarius, Pokey, though, too. So I imagine, my sister, she is a systems engineer. She works for EA Games out in Vancouver. And when she looks at code, she looks at it as like art. You can differentiate between beautifully written code versus code that's been like smushed together just to run and get the project going. And I was a project manager, so I know all the jokes about like making 9 women having a baby in like 1 month kind of situation. So let's bring it back to Psylocke. I fell in love with Psylocke when I was a teenager growing up in the prairies. My first comic books that I actually read were not DC, they were Marvel. I read a lot of the Avengers, like the big cosmic stuff that have to do with like Galactus, as well as the X-Men and the Dark Phoenix saga and all of that. And also like the old 90s X-Men cartoon, which actually had all their voice actors from here in Toronto. Fun fact. Okay, so Psylocke herself, in the comic books, in my past readings on my YouTube, you can see some past readings of me doing, I do a lot of Psylocke reading Sorcerer Supreme stuff, so Doctor Strange stuff. The reason is this, okay? Get this. This is just one version, right? There's many versions that exist, okay? Right? Just like with Supergirl and all the characters, there are multiple origin stories. I'm just telling you the one that I know of, and if you have one as well, I would love to hear it too. Okay, so Merlin, if you guys are familiar with Arthurian legends, I, as a little girl, was obsessed with Arthurian legends, like King Arthur, the Knights of the Round Table, the Camelot, the myth of Camelot, the Holy Grail myth, not so as fun, but in that story, Merlin as a figure and King Arthur and the Knights of Camelot also exist in the Marvel universe, okay? So magic in both DC and Marvel is treated in a very specific way, right? Because it's so funny with comic book universes or any fantasy universe. It's very, I don't want to say scientific, but it's very logical. And there's a reason why a lot of smart people or like the guy who wrote Jurassic Park was also the guy who wrote Sphere. And so science fiction writers, it's like a way of talking about, in fiction, great truths of the universe, right? So Psylocke herself is her real name in some universes is Elizabeth Braddock. So Elizabeth Braddock is the twin sister to Captain Britain. Now, Captain Britain in the Marvel Universe, I don't think they've done this live action. I don't know, maybe. Who knows? But I've read a few comic books where Captain Britain is basically like the champion of Merlin. And because Elizabeth Braddock is his twin, she is also genetically able to harness the same powers that Merlin has given Captain Britain. I don't know exactly what happens in terms of different stories, but there's a body switch that happens. So Elizabeth Braddock is like an English white lady. She swaps her body with a Japanese assassin, and she becomes Psylocke. I can't remember the name of the girl who she takes the body of. So it's kind of like this weird, like, if you've seen the show Altered Carbon, you know, the concept of like, okay, I like this avatar here in this reality is holding the true me, which is, yes, this, but also this and this and this, right? So yeah, let's see here. She's a character you can play in Marvel Champions game. Oh, cool. And also Marvel Rivals. She's actually pretty cool, Psylocke. She's actually also in some of the old Super Nintendo games, the side-scrollers, right? Psylocke is in a few of the X-Men ones, which I think if you get an emulator, you can just play on your PC if you want. And I think I'll maybe stream some of that. We can do some Discord throwbacks to like the old Avengers game. Do you remember that with like Captain America and Iron... what was it? Oh my gosh, The Thing, I think it was, or was it the Hulk? I forget. And Hawkman, who I thought was pretty cool. Let's see here. They only did it in What If. Yeah, What If's not bad. That's a pretty cool show, actually, how they show the different... because, as I said, like, in the beauty of mythos, the beauty of comic books and these different stories is that I've learned in my mature age... how to love things in a non-possessive manner, right? I used to be very juvenile in my love, right? So I would love things and then almost like get mad at other people when like they liked the same thing, but like not in the way that I loved it, or they like got some of the facts wrong about like Psylocke, for example. I'm pretty sure in like the live action and other stories, there's a version where she's not Elizabeth Braddock. Just like how in DC, the Huntress is not always Catwoman and Batman's daughter, right? But both of those versions exist, and you can have a favorite. It doesn't negate or make the other one like less worthy of attention, right? So fun fact, her code name Psylocke came through from the Marvel villains Mojo and Spiral. Oh, fun. Thanks for that. Oh, I love the fun little fact, because I honestly think those little Easter eggs that we notice, they actually matter in a bigger codex for how this reality functions. Like, I mean, that sounds pretty like extreme in some regard, but I would say if we look at the news right now and the figures that they have presented for us to look up to, they're kind of hitting short of the mark. We should demand better from our heroes, right? And so I grew up in the 80s, 90s, and these heroes, when I was like reading them, there's some part of you that believes on some level, somewhere out there, this is real. This happened, right? So and then you realize, like, wow, no one's going to love this in the way I love it. No one's going to care about it in the way I care about it. And so how will I share this with others if I don't do something about it? You know, especially if this gives some sort of clarity or understanding to whatever's going on in your life. Oftentimes we can fall into like deep depressions when like you do everything right and then like everything crap happens anyways, right? AJ Lee returned to WWE last night after... That's cool. Oh, I love comebacks, you guys. There's nothing better than like a surprise comeback. The best WWE body couple. Oh, I got full body tingles talking about that. So, Psylocke, as I said, like, she's got this whole idea of, like, feeling like you're in the wrong body, right? But at the same time, like, in this life, she is now Psylocke. Like, now I'm playing as an Asian lady, right? Like, no different than when I put on Supergirl, right? Supergirl's Kryptonian, right? So, there's no one could be typecast as Supergirl because, like, we don't know what Kryptonians, like, in this realm really look like, do we? Unless we do. Right? AJ is that, oh, you guys are so fun. Another fun fact, Olivia Munn. I love Olivia Munn, by the way. I love Olivia Munn. I'm going to see if I can. I feel like she got a little bit, you know, I will say this. I try to have empathy for people in the limelight or those who do certain things or, like, called to be rock stars. It's a hard thing to kind of juggle. Also, like, your persona, your performance persona, and, like, who you are privately. And you know what? I really have to thank the girls that I cosplay as for providing me the protection to who I truly am, Rachel Z, right? For me to be who I really am, right? Because it's like these characters, like Batgirl, super, like, they provide that armor for me to really shine, right? Because to be vulnerable and, like, really be yourself, full stop, like, that's something reserved for only very special people, right? And I think all of us, you owe it to yourself to provide the appropriate amount of boundaries and armor, but then also know when to let the right people in, right? And that's, I think, a big learning of, you know, when villains have a change of heart, right? Psylocke is one of those characters who has played both sides. Her and, like, Black Cat, and there's a few other characters that I like, where, like, it's so boring just to be, like, so good all the time, right? This is why I love Supergirl a lot, because she struggles a lot with having to live up to, like, her little cousin being the Superman, right? And, like, how do I live up to being a hero like that? Well, you have to just be your own sort of hero, whatever that looks like. And the learning of that in your own life, right, is for you to be the best you there is. And literally no one has the right to tell you how to do that. No one. Not even me. No one. No one who claims that they love you. Just you, right? And you also have to own up, which I've had to do, for when I made some miscalculations. I was a little, like, because when you're young, you're so arrogant, right? You think you know. You're like, these old people. What the heck? Why don't we just do this and the other thing? And then you realize, whoa, experience. The ultimate teacher of experience, and what it actually feels to go through heartbreak, right? To actually love someone who doesn't love you back in that way anymore, or to say goodbye when you're not ready to say goodbye. I'm never ready to say goodbye, by the way. So that's been some work for me. I gotta say, the worst Psylocke was in Deadpool Wolverine, mainly because nobody knew she was there. And they put her in that area where, like, all the forgotten, and I was really happy Elektra was there, but I feel like Elektra and Psylocke sometimes get confused. You know, that whole, like, female femme fatale assassin. I love that character so much. Whenever I play D&D, oh, great. We can bring this back into D&D, you guys. And I'm going to teach you guys astrology through D&D. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. All right, you guys. Someone once told me old age and treachery triumphs over youth and skill. Can I take that, Mr. Top Ramen? I feel like that's something like an old dragon would say. And, like, this is why I just stay in my cave kind of situation. Yeah, ma'am. All right. So, welcome to the Weekend Warriors. Now that we've gone through my backstory of Psylocke, this whole idea of not feeling like you're in the right body, but also realizing this, like, I love driving cars. I love fast cars. It must be my Aries rising. I love fast things like roller coasters, motorcycles. I love muscle cars. My favorite car is like 60s Challenger, or like the old school like V8 engine, that kind of stuff. I don't know, just it beckons to a time that, like, I used to be a car model as well, right? Back when Tila Tequila wasn't quite so crazy. Before reality TV made everyone a little bit nuts, I think. Why drive when you get your husband to carry you everywhere? Right? It's true. We do drive an electric motorcycle, and so he does carry me around on that a lot, but I'm going to get my own. I want it modded to my specifications, some LEDs and stuff. So stay tuned for that. And then even more fun if I could, my bestie Rachel growing up. Okay, that's actually a fun thing about names. Have you guys ever in like class or school had people share the same names as you, right? And so what we call things, like when we say Batman or Psylocke, these names, Psylocke in and of itself, if people didn't know, and it's a code name too, right? That also becomes a name. So code names, nicknames, names that we give others, names that we give ourselves, they all matter, right? Because there's an element of living up to a name as well as everyone else who has held that same mantle of that name too, right? So it's why in some cultures you have both, like, I was born on this day, but then I have a name day of when, like, I was given like a destiny of what my parents thought for me, right? All that kind of stuff. We have to fight when we share names in order to know who is the alpha. Well, one of my best friend Rachel, we were both named Rachel, but we're spelt differently. I spell my name this way, Rachel, and she spells it Rachel, like that. Oh, good. It's reminded me to flip this properly. Yeah. Just now that we're getting into the learning section of this live. So I spelled my name this way, and she spelled her name this way, right? I think Michael can kind of be the similar kind of thing. But, like, is there a difference? Like, if you're saying it out loud, it just all sounds the same too. And I've realized when it comes to things like magic and spell casting, just to be very aware of your words and how powerful you really are, right? So I'll give you an example from a personal trainer perspective. When I used to train girls for bikini competitions and stuff, like, because I used to compete, and so I would get girls ready for shows. And you know, in the last few weeks, it's getting tougher, right? Because you're like literally eating nothing but like broccoli and tilapia, and you're still trying to lift weight. And so I would tell them, like, this is now all a mental game, right? So just be aware of what you're telling yourself. Don't tell yourself you're fat, please. Please be kinder to your body, right? It's doing all this work for you. So the least you could freaking do is be like, you know, thanks. Thanks for, like, taking me from point A to point B, even though I don't feed you the right nutrients. And thank you for always waking up in the morning with me. Thank you for letting me experience what love feels like. Letting me taste what pizza tastes like, right? So I don't think we do so much stuff. I used to do this a lot too. Like, just, why are you like this, Rachel? Why are you doing this? Like, why the fuck did you do that? And why are you late for this again? And why did you let yourself down? Maybe just take a moment and be like, hey, can we celebrate my wins for a second? Because maybe that'll motivate me to do more, as opposed to me feeling like berated all the time by myself, right? This is what I used to tell, like, my hubby. I'm like, no one gets to fuck with me more than me. Only I get to fuck with me. And that's true. Like, only you get to fuck with you. As well as only you get to decide if you consent for someone else to bring their reality or their universe or their mythos and have it merge with yours or have it connect in some sort of way. That's the synergy of it. My mother has the same name. Oh, I just got crazy body tingles with that, Pokey. That's so crazy. So me and my best friend Rachel, the story of our friendship was this. So simple when you're a kid, right? First day of kindergarten, I forget, like, we were in a really small Catholic school out in the prairies, and so I forget what she said to me. She's like, what's your name? And I'm like, Rachel. And I'm like, what's yours? She's like, Rachel. And she's like, do you want to be best friends? We have the same name. And I'm like, sure. And we are 13 years later. So kids, we don't see all of these other things that happen as we grow up. Things get so much more complicated, right? Like, I've had to deal with very many instances where, let's say, you know, once hormones kick in, where like you have guy friends who like admit their feelings to you, and then I learned how to have care with that, because I'm a big romantic. In the end, I think everyone has their person. What we really want most of all is not just to fit in. We want to belong. And that's a different thing than like trying to merge or be something just so like people don't bother you. It's a different thing just to be who you are, full stop, and then having those around you who will both check you and love you, right? Regardless, no matter what. And dogs, cats are companions, that they do teach us how to have that sort of love that has no strings attached, right? So let's bring it back into the astrology and D&D. So Mayari Moonchild is my D&D character. She kind of reminds me a lot of Psylocke because she's a rogue assassin. So in D&D, you pick like different character or classes that you could be, right? You could be an elf, you can be a moon elf in my case, you can be a human, an orc, a drow, a tiefling, a dragonborn, all these different things, right? You get to choose whatever that character is. But once you choose that gives you a certain level of a path that lays in front of you, right? So if you chose to become like a cleric, which has a lot of its power coming from like divine sources or like gods, if you're trying to get your magic from the way a sorcerer does things or a magician, you're going to have some problems. And then your dungeon master would probably ask you like, well, why didn't you just decide to play as a sorcerer in the beginning? But we can, and so I think that's like something to kind of consider when we're in this life playing your astrology as a character, right? Because we can sometimes be like, ooh, that seems cool. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever done this. Like, I'm a Taurus, so whenever I go to the restaurant or any kind of food place, I'll typically always order the same thing that I know is good and delicious and just do that. Every once in a while, my Gemini moon will kick in and be like, oh, Rachel, why don't you try something a little bit more experimental? Why don't you try this? And it'll taste gross. And I'm like, oh, I should have just got what I knew was good. So that's the thing about like trusting your own resonances with things, and just this back and forth when it comes to making decisions with yourself, and realizing like what astrology kind of illustrates or shows to you is kind of like the different parts of you, your different personas, how they almost push and pull or are more harmonious when it comes to different aspects of life. I'll give you an example, right? So I have like elf ears that I'm working on. So TBD for later with my elven ears. I love elves, by the way. I have a thing for elves, half elves. The Dragonlance series back in the day, the Dragonlance Chronicles, obsessed with it. Like Tannis half elven was kind of annoying. But I loved Loranthala, the golden general, just the lore of all of it. I love the good dragons, the silver dragons that like love falling in love with humans, and I just love all of it. I love when I can just suspend disbelief and people can just take me into their world of imagination. It's like Willy Wonka, but for comic books, right? But that's it. Like, your imagination is literally, what did Alan Moore say? He said, the imagination is the only thing that you can be certain of is real, really, right? Because everything else requires you to bring it to life. It's like when you watch a movie or you're watching this, yes, hey Kiwi, it is a D&D, well, also Psylocke kind of thing. But we are talking about Astro this weekend, and we have an eclipse tomorrow, and I want to get you guys prepared for that, because it's a big doozy of one as it comes to psychic abilities. Now I've actually gotten myself on track. Let's talk about it. So tomorrow we have an eclipse happening at, I think it's like 8 something PST. So in Eastern time zone, it's happening at like 11 a.m. Pisces. Full moon eclipse. Yeah, so tomorrow, and that's also why things are feeling really crazy emotionally. Pisces is the opposite of Virgo. We are in Virgo season right now. To remind you guys, Virgo is a sign ruled by Mercury. It also is very practical. It's an earth sign. It's like service. If you think like nursing, back to school, the practical side of life. The opposite of Virgo is Pisces, right? Which is this more dream-like, watery, dissolving boundaries kind of position, right? So us in a collective state, as we're going through basically an eclipse full moon portal situation, is the interpretation is this. Everything that is sitting underneath subconscious wise, like when you have like a conversation with somebody and like they say something that you don't like, but you don't want to let them know that you don't like it. So like on your face, you're just going to try to like keep it neutral, but like inside you're like, your blood is boiling. So all of those latent underneath feelings, right? All that stuff that is underneath the surface that a lot of us, just because we live in civilized culture, we keep under the surface. All of that is going to be illuminated. It's going to like start bubbling up to the surface, whether we like it or not. Now, everything that is hidden will now be illuminated. This is going to cause stress, panic, confusion, especially for those who have a lot of stake in things remaining hidden. But the truth cannot be hidden forever, right? Whatever. You can't fool all of the people all the time, right? So too many people know. All that this eclipse is doing is it's a change. It's a shift. The earth is basically, I'm going to illustrate this. It's getting intense in here, you guys. I'm hopeful tomorrow by this time, when I bring back Supergirl, I may be able to have some laser eyes for you. Maybe not laser eyes. It's a little bit much. Maybe super breath, something like that. Okay, so when we have an eclipse, this is the sun. This is Merc. Oh my gosh. How do I spell Mercury again? Mercury. And then we'll put Venus here, just so I have space. Venus. And then we have the Earth. Right? So now the moon, which is orbiting the Earth, whether or not you think it's a satellite or made of cheese or whatever the heck it is, there's something out there. It's orbiting the Earth. And what happens when there's an eclipse is basically the moon is here. So usually when there's a full moon anyways, the moon is getting full illumination from the sun, right? And so that's why it appears all like big and bright and beautiful in the sky. When you have a lunar eclipse, which is what we're going to have tomorrow, you basically have the Earth, us, essentially, in between the sun's illumination of the moon. So this particular one that we have right now is a blood moon. And it's happening in Pisces. Now, blood typically is a very scorpionic thing, but I will say both Pisces and Scorpio, when it comes to signs in the zodiac, are what I would call the more occulted, the more psychic signs, the more intuitive. They're both water signs, including Cancer there. It's this emotional side to things. And so for us, as in a collective kind of sense, this full illumination of our subconscious is now going to be intercepted by the earth energy, right? So the earth is going to get full impact of what that means to have subconscious feelings or shadow side pull up to the surface, right? So Scorpios, like, I mean, Scorpios are very powerful. They're ruled by Pluto, right? So power is power. And Scorpios also know when to reveal what they want to reveal. And in all of us right now, I think there's just a level of like any secrets that have been hidden are going to come to the surface. But just like, in like relationships where, I had a friend of mine find out that her partner was cheating on her, right? And so as a result of that, they had to have a breakup, and it's this horrible thing. But had she never found out about the infidelity, maybe she wouldn't have gone through all this pain. Like, maybe is it better not to know and just live in this illusion? Or is it better to know the truth and then like go through it, whatever comes with it, and then come through on the other side with a more personal power and enlightenment in whatever the truth is, right? But typically these things don't come without a cost, right? And that's bringing it back to Psylocke and magic and all that. Reading the Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Strange, how that whole explanation as to how his powers work, and all the different Sorcerers Supreme, and the intersection of where science and medicine meets magic, right? Where miracles come from, what it really means to be alive, what death really is. Like, what is all of this? We don't know. We do our very best to explain, to tell stories about it, so that we feel better about it and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, we don't know. Like, I've had a near-death experience. We can infer things. You have dreams. You have cool movies and books and poems and stories and artwork that strives to explain the ineffable. But all you really have is this beautiful instrument right here, your human body, interfacing and being that bridge between the divine and earth, right? And so we do have a big blood moon eclipse happening tomorrow. I want you guys to watch out for that in terms of changes in your own life that will probably happen. Shakeups on a grand cosmic level are going to be happening, but there's huge opportunity to ride that wave. Just like how a surfer, when a big wave's coming through, you could like freak out about it, or you can like take your board, jump on it, and use that to ride forward, right? Do not be afraid of the storm if you are the storm, right? So it's just this kind of situation where we stepping into your own personal power through understanding knowledge and all of like the experience that has taken you up to this point in life thus far. All right, guys, I'm going to leave that for this portion of the live. I still have to do things like get my elf ears on and some other things. If you want to get readings from me, I do energy and astrology readings where you can figure out your own superpowers based on your astrology. And I do that on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And I have like my calendar up and running, but you can always just message me if you want to get that. As well as my book is finally going to be dropping this weekend, hopefully by Monday at midnight. Hopefully we'll get Dragon Warriors Battle for Mount Olympus, and then I do have my own homebrew D&D game that's embedded in the book, which is based on the 20 die. I still have to work out some stuff with the game mechanics, but I basically use like the D20 die for the encounters, right? And then all the different attributes, which I've had to kind of adjust for my own book. But, the same things are there, right? Like strength, dexterity, arcana, your acrobatics score, that kind of stuff. Charisma. How much charisma do you have? Jay, oh, thanks, Jay. You guys are very sweet. I just think it's one of those things that whatever you are drawn to in terms of symbolically talking about the truth, that's cool, right? That's like, I was talking to my hubby about this, how like I never liked physics in high school. I never like physics as a subject. I struggled with, like, I took triple sciences in school, which is biology, chemistry, and physics, right? But physics itself, I struggled with a lot just because my dad was like really big into math, and physics is not necessarily math. It's more like formulations, like acceleration, inertia, dealing with things like force and the calculations of, like, you know, if you were going to make a car go faster, that kind of situation. Are you going to dance? I am going to dance, actually. Yes. I don't know if I'm going to do this outfit. It's a pretty warm outfit. It's my assassin's outfit. I'm going to see if I'm going to end it this way. I'm going to have this, right, to go with it. And then my sword, which is from Kill Bill, which, I mean, Tarantino has been, he's borrowed a lot from, like, the whole samurai movie situation, but then also infused it with, like, Western stuff. And I think as creators, it's kind of like what we're all into. All right, guys, thank you for joining me. I'll put this down before TikTok gets mad at me for having weapons in the live. I hope you learned something today. I was like Psylocke / Mayari, and Mayari is a moon elf, and I based her on the Filipino moon goddess, right? And so in the Philippines, before Christianity happened, they had their own pantheon of gods and goddesses, and Mayari was the moon goddess. She's just like very similar to Diana and Artemis, this like badass goddess of like war and love and beauty. And she gets into this altercation, this fight with her brother, who is the god of the sun, kind of like Apollo, right? So this idea of like the sun and the moon getting into a fight. And in this case, what ends up happening is that after the fight, Mayari loses an eye, and that's why the moon is half as bright as the sun. But that is just a story, right? Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for the gift. I want to make sure. Kuhar, if that's how you say it, or Kuhar. Appreciate it. So I welcome you guys to like look into your own codexes, your own memories, your own dreams for stories that empower you, and don't be afraid to bring them to life. You are the magic that exists in all of those stories. As I said, no one's going to love you the way you're going to love you, and no one's going to love those stories, those characters, and everything in the way that you care, right? So please do that. All right, guys, I will be back very, very soon. I wanted to just say hi and kind of infuse the whole idea of D&D and playing as a character with the astrology that's happening. So best of luck to everybody. We do have that eclipse coming in with the full moon tomorrow at 11:11 portal. So TBD if I'll be doing a live to ride us through that. Maybe Sailor Moon will make an appearance, right? Moon power activation, right? Because, I mean, Supergirl loves her sunshine, but there is something to be said about the moon side. And just like all of us have our sun sign and our moon sign, we also have our inner feminine and our inner masculine, our inner mother, our inner father. How we archetypally paint whatever those characters are come from our own perspective, painting it. So you are the master that makes it come from our own perspective, painting it. So you are the master that makes before then, happy 11:11 portal. I wish you all well in your superhero journeys. After all, it takes true courage for you to be exactly you in the cosmic game of life. So remember to play as exactly you, because the universe is counting on you. But no worries, I got your back. Bye.